While the latest Through My Window entry is tediously long, almost as long as its predecessor, it still works in being almost like a young adult counterpart to 365 Days. To summarize the film, while still very much in love and lust, distance has put a huge strain when it comes to Raquel and Aries' relationship, and it keeps them from being as present as they should be in school. For Aries, his lack of connection with Raquel makes it very difficult for him to be in Stockholm on his own and pursue trying to be a doctor. And for Raquel, her being distracted with Aries' texts and trying to keep up with him has led to her still being one of the top students of her class, but her professors notably can see that she is distracted. But luckily for both of them, in the summertime it seems Raquel and Aries are reunited alongside with their friends and families at one of the Hidalgo family homes. But no sooner than people are reuniting and of course hooking up, so comes the drama. For Aries and Raquel, the issue comes in the form of Vera, who is one of Aries' friends from Stockholm, who is also rich and relates to Aries in ways that Raquel can't. Alongside that situation, there is Artemis, who is Aries' older brother, in case you don't remember, who is dealing with having a relationship with Claudia, who increasingly wants to have a public relationship and no longer be treated as the help. As for the youngest Hidalgo brother, Apollo, he's still in something with Daniela, but being that he suffers as much as the rest of the brothers when it comes to communicating how he feels, and on top of that, he's introverted by nature, it makes her being someone who's vivacious and wants to live life, experiment and everything, still something that challenges him in a way that he can't express his sometimes discomfort over with her. And while she still very much likes him in a way, you can see that him sometimes being stuck in the mud a little bit could potentially be a problem down the line. Last but not least, we have to mention Yoshi, who, despite all the big talk he gave in the first film about eventually moving on, he's still very much a perpetual third wheel in whatever relationship that Raquel is in. And alongside Daniela, he side eyes Aries, especially as they get to learn more and more about Vera. But let it be known, Vera is not the only one who wants to potentially intrude on Aries and Raquel's relationship. There's also a young man named Gregory, who is the top student within within Raquel's class, and also has a history with Aries, which is a little complicated. But as much as Aries has an alternative, and also Raquel, one is also introduced for Yoshi, which is Gregory's little sister Anna, who aggressively makes it clear that you don't have to be on the hook with this girl. Other people want you, and I'm right here. Love and appreciate me. So when it comes to highlights, the first highlight is, as with the first film, there is an effort made so that nearly every character has a storyline. Whether you want to talk about Apollo struggling to keep up with Daniela, whether you want to bring up Raquel being pushed by a literary teacher to mull over the idea of having Through My Window, her first book, published. Whether you're a small character or a big character, you have something going on in your life, and we're given some idea of what direction your life is going in. For even in the case of Claudia, as much as she is focused on trying to convince Artemis to not be such a little, let's not call him that because that's not fair. As much as she wants Artemis to stick up for her, especially because Artemis's mother damns her for having red hair because she dyed hers and doesn't want Claudia to look like family, which I still think is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Claudia also has a life outside of Artemis. She is singing, she's going to school, and this is on top of trying to be a servant to his family and also be a good girlfriend. So no matter which character you talk about, whether it's something small like Apollo trying to continue to get used to people like Daniela and try to live up to what they ask of them, to Claudia with her having a whole life outside of the Hidalgo family, and of course Raquel with trying to pursue a literary stuff. So much is going on with each character that even if it's not necessarily a hook, at the very least, it lets you know that they're not just there for the sake of bringing a character from the first movie. The second highlight for us is Vera. And the reason Vera's a highlight is because easily you could damn her as somebody that's trying to steal away Ares because Ares was vulnerable, lonely, and she was there and knew how to perhaps tap into the worst of Ares, since we know that back in the day he used to jump around a lot. Hence his issues with Gregory, because he took Gregory's girlfriend in the past. But that aside, as much as you can see her trying to stir the pot and maybe cause a little bit of conflict, at the same time, it seems one of the issues that both Raquel and Ares had was they knew they were in a relationship, but because their partner wasn't then and there, physically seen, they didn't necessarily push the idea that they was in something that's committed and serious. Hence, Gregory hitting on Raquel, and also Vera thinking that maybe her and Ares had a chance. In note, Vera definitely did a few things which deserve a side eye that Daniela and Yoshi gave her, but at the same time, it seems that this film doesn't want to be one of those type of movies where girls are fighting over a guy, and it has Vera actually approach and talk to Raquel, and they bond a little bit. And the way that they bond is both ladies recognize that their lives are influenced by the man that isn't in their life, which is their father. As told to us in the first movie, Raquel's father died, and Vera reveals her father abandoning her and her mother. And it seems when it comes to Vera, and she thinks Raquel feels the same way, both of them are very much influenced by the person that's not there, and in many ways that person has set the path that they're on now. But it's hard to say whether the path they're on now is to impress them, to honor them, maybe feel more connected to them, or if it's truly what they want for themselves. And I would say, as much as people can look at Through My Window as just another young adult movie which has a notable bit of sexual content, including nudity, at the same time, that one conversation shows that this movie could, even franchise, could potentially pursue more than your usual sort of 50 Shades of Grey light, where a lot of sex. It's not a lot of sex. There's a couple of sex scenes, but they're not as much as like 365 Days. But point is, there is potential for this to be far more than what most people may know it for. And with that scene between Vera and also Raquel, we're reminded that there could be depth to this franchise. Which leads to the low points, which is this movie feels ridiculously long because of how overstuffed it is. But don't get me wrong, I appreciate characters like Apollo having stories, and Artemis, and even Claudia, but while I appreciate them having stories, I'm not going to say that their storylines are good or really add value to the film. It's just nice that they at least made an effort to justify them being there, but unfortunately, I don't want to say I don't care, but it's like you give me these dry ass characters like Apollo and Artemis and expect me to be invested. And even Claudia, yes, it's nice that it's established that she has a life outside of Artemis, but you give me one scene of her singing, one scene of her talking to somebody else she, I think, goes to school with, but you don't do much beyond that. I'm supposed to care about that? What? And it's just, I feel like this is a case where less could have been more, especially with them changing locations and having this be a summer vacation. They could have cut out some of these characters. They could have had Artemis stay in Barcelona with his issues and his parents, and Apollo stay there too, and keep this very much about Raquel and Ares, who, I don't know about you, but that's the main reason I was interested. Never mind seeing Daniela and Yoshi again, even though, honestly, I was getting very tired of Yoshi being very accepting of being a third wheel, despite how clearly he will never be Raquel's first choice. So the next topic is very big spoiler, specifically for the ending, and that is we experience a mercy killing in the form of Yoshi being killed off. Now, in a highlight sort of way, it seems like Yoshi was very stuck as a character, especially stuck on Raquel. So part of me is glad he got knocked off, even though it seemed toward the end, maybe, just maybe, he finally figured out that he would never be her first choice. But at the same time, the sort of negative of it is you can see that he kind of got fridged, which is a trope in which usually a woman is killed, murdered, raped, something negative that's supposed to throw the lead character into action. And in this case, it seems that with Yoshi being fridged, it helped Raquel see Ares for who he is, decide to focus on her work instead of focus on boys. And on top of that, Yoshi, in one of his final acts, he actually sent an email to the publisher who Raquel's literary teacher told her to contact, and sent the manuscript, which is now going to lead to her actually having a book out. So while it's unfortunate that he died, at the same time, as we know that this is a very bloated franchise, and as much as we were kind of interested in what could happen between him and Anna, at the same time there's always that need to question if he would fully commit to Anna, especially since when him and Anna have sex, he calls out Raquel's name when he comes, and even with that happening, Anna for some reason was still trying to be with him. So who knows if that would have actually progressed to something fruitful or not. Overall, while there is an increasingly high need to ask why wasn't the Through My Window franchise made into a miniseries, there is no denying there's something that comes from it that keeps you coming back for more, even though by no means is this the best young adult movie franchise out there.